What's up fellow nerds, I'm your host Dr. McKay and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be my continuation of my fan fiction season 3 of Stargate Universe. This is episode 2, so if you like the story and want more like this, please like, comment and subscribe for more. So with that said, let's go. We begin with an intro montage of the first episode of season 3, like with the first 2 seasons, starting every episode with them. Then, as the episode begins, we open up with a Kino camera activating, revealing Eli. He begins to talk to the camera. So, it's been just over a week since the crew entered the stasis pods, and I'm no closer to fixing the last pod. The part I need to fix to get the pod working, I can't replicate or bypass it. I need a replacement part. I still got a few more days before I have to shut off the life support system, so hopefully I can fix it in time. Wish me luck. The Kino recording ends. A new Kino recording activates. It's Eli again. This time, he's in a dark room illuminated by only the console. He turns to the Kino and speaks. So it's been 3 weeks since the crew entered the pods, and I bet you're wondering why I'm not dead, as I was supposed to turn off the life support system a week ago, so that Destiny has enough power to cross to the next galaxy. Well, I realised I wouldn't be able to fix the pod in time, so as I went up to the bridge and I sat staring out into space, and while I was contemplating my own death, I wondered if the energy streaks surrounding Destiny could be converted into power. Well, I won't bore you with all the details, but I figured it out. So by lowering the solar collectors during FTL, Destiny can charge while at flight, but it is a very small amount of power. Luckily though, it has bought me a few extra months, and if I ration additional food and power by only keeping life support system on minimum and sleeping in the botany lab to reduce the life support system even more while I sleep, I should add a month or 2 extra before the end comes. Hopefully that should be plenty of time to figure all of this out so I don't die. End of recording. The final recording activates, showing Eli very skinny and malnourished, standing in the gate room. He stood at the gate console pressing buttons and starts to speak. It's now over 8 months after the crew went into stasis, and we are currently halfway between the galaxies. I have stretched the power supply to its very limits, and just as I was about to shut off the life support system and face the end so that Destiny could cross the void, Destiny's computer detected a Stargate on the edge of the next galaxy. But Destiny was still out of range to dial it, so I came up with a plan. It would take another 2 weeks at FTL to get within minimum range of the Stargate, but that would use up all the remaining power to reach the next galaxy. So I crunched the numbers and I decided to take a gamble. If I shut off every system except the FTL engines, the stasis pods and the minimum life support for the gate room only, it should buy me the time I needed to get in range and give me time to work out the only solution I have left. So I have programmed Destiny to drop out of FTL as soon as it's within range of the Stargate and dial. Then as soon as I'm through the gate, Destiny will shut off every system and conserve power to power only the stasis pods, and hopefully this gives me time to figure out how to save the crew. The camera then pans to Destiny dropping out of FTL and then cuts to the gate room as the gate starts to dial. This is it. I hope this works, Eli says, pressing a couple of buttons on the console. He then turns around and dons an EV suit. The gate then activates and Eli turns to the Kino and says, "To anyone that sees this, I hope I did the right thing, and if I didn't, please forgive me." He then turns to the gate and with great hesitation walks through. The gate shuts down and the room goes dark. End of recording. Fade in to Dr. Rush and Colonel Young watching the recordings of the Kino on a console. "Eli, you took a rather risky gamble there," Rush says out loud softly to himself. Young turns to Rush and says, "Yeah, and how did he survive 8 months? There was only enough food to last him a month or 2 max." "Well, he must have rationed what he had and possibly used the botany lab for additional food. Just look at Eli in the last recording. He's extremely malnourished, so he probably didn't have food left," Rush says, being slightly impressed and concerned at the state of Eli. The Colonel of the Hermes, Colonel Edwards, turns to Rush and Young. "We should send a team to the planet. he went to and find out what happened to Eli if we can. Overhearing this from the other side of the room, Scott and Greer interrupt and say, "We volunteered to go find him. If he's alive, it might be better for him to see a familiar face." Young nods and agrees and says, "Take 5 additional men and TJ, just in case you find him alive." "Yes sir," Scott says. The camera pans to Scott and Greer and TJ and a team of Marines in the gate room. The gate begins to dial. Rush at the controls says to the team, "This is the only gate in range and the one Eli went to, but we will send a Kino first to make sure it is safe, as Eli left in an EV suit and we don't know what planet we will find." The gate activates and a Kino flies past the team and enters the Stargate. The camera pans to Rush's console, where the monitor is showing a dark, raining forest with O2 present and safe for humans. "It's safe," Rush says to the team. The team then proceeds to go through the Stargate, fade to black, to the camera now panning over the dark rainforest. The gate now enters the frame as the team exits the Stargate. Scott says to Greer, "Right, we're going to spread out and look for any signs of Eli. Stay alert and watch out for any dangers that might be lurking in this forest." The team heads off into the forest as the camera zooms out and fades to black. Fade in to a shot of Destiny and the Hermes side by side as repairs are still being made to the Destiny. The camera panning through the corridors as both the Destiny crew and the Hermes crew make repairs to various systems. The camera then pans up onto the bridge to Rush at a console looking over the ship's systems. Colonel Young walks in with Colonel Edwards and asks Rush for a status report. Rush turns to Young a bit frustrated and says, "The repairs are coming along nicely, but it's the power systems. They're struggling with the power output of the ZPM. We already have 4 conduits that have blown or fused while transferring the power around the ship. Destiny was not designed to use the power of the ZPM, and we need to get the engines back online and jump to the nearest star to get Destiny back on its own power as soon as possible. And according to the database, the nearest G-type star is a month away, on the very edge of the next galaxy. But I'm having issues here getting the engines online. There appears to be a lockout code in place and I can't override it." Suddenly, an alarm goes off on the bridge. Rush hurries to another console and hits a button. "Oh no," he says with fear in his voice. "A drone control ship has just dropped out of FTL. How did they find us?" As Rush looks up at both colonels, the camera then pans to the intergalactic void with the drone control ship stationed at a fair distance from the Destiny. A few seconds go by, and then just as the control ship releases the smaller drones, another 2 control ships exits FTL, totaling 3 control ships. Back on the bridge of the Destiny, Young announces over the radio the situation to the crew as Colonel Edwards beams back over to the Hermes and prepares to defend the Destiny from attack. Colonel Edwards, now on the bridge of the Hermes, says, "Battle stations, arm the Asgard beam weapons, railguns and missiles, and raise the shields, and prepare to defend the Destiny." Young on the bridge of the Destiny orders the crew to prepare and to arm the pulse cannons, and says to Rush, "We need those FTL engines." Rush, agitated, says, "I'm trying. This lockout code is not easy to break. I'm going to need some time." The camera then pans over Destiny and the Hermes in the backdrop of the void. The Hermes then begins to move off and positions itself in between Destiny and the control ships. Destiny is stationary with her engines off. The camera then pans to all the control ships' drones that have now been launched, and with the camera now following the couple hundred drones that are now heading towards both ships. The Hermes begins to fire its railguns at the smaller drones, trying to stop them from passing, but many just fly right by, heading directly towards the Destiny. The drones, now in range of the Destiny, begin to fire. "Why aren't we firing?" shouts Young. "There's a power surge, rerouting the power now." "Okay, the cannons are online," Rush shouts. The camera then pans over to Young. "Fire at will." The Destiny begins to fire its cannons as it starts to take damage from the drones. Young then radios the Hermes. "Colonel Edwards, we need to destroy the control ships. Once they're destroyed, the smaller drones will stop attacking." "Understood, Colonel Young. Helm, set a course." The camera pans to the Hermes, firing its railguns, destroying many drones in its path. "Target the control ship," orders Colonel Edwards. Fire the beam weapons! The Hermes, powering through the drones towards one of the control ships, fires its beams and destroys it. The other two drone ships begin to focus their fire on the Hermes and begins to concentrate their fire on it. "Now, fire on the next one," shouts Colonel Edwards as sparks and explosions occur on the bridge, due to the Hermes taking increasing fire from the drones. "Shields down to 60%, sir," shouts the Major in the right control station. "Focus fire on the control ships with the beam weapons and screen those drone fighters with the railguns," orders Colonel Edwards. The Hermes, moving swiftly through the swarm of drones, gets within range of the next control ship and fires its beams. The control ship takes a direct hit and explodes. "One to go," says Colonel Edwards, when suddenly the Hermes takes extreme damage as a few dozen drones kamikaze the Hermes, while the other half of the drones form a barrier around the last control ship to protect it. "Beam weapons disabled, sir, and shields are at 20%. We can't take another hit like that," shouts the Major. The camera then pans back to Destiny, struggling to hold off the attacking drones. "The shields can't take much more of this," Young states. Young then hails the Hermes. "Colonel, we need cover. The Destiny shields are weakening. We can't take much more damage." Back on the bridge of the Hermes, the Colonel orders Hermes back to the Destiny to provide defensive fire. The camera then pans to the Hermes swooping by the Destiny, firing its railguns, destroying many drones, giving Destiny's shields a small reprieve. The Hermes continues to fly around the Destiny, providing cover fire, as the camera then cuts to the bridge of the Destiny. "How about those engines?" Young shouts to Rush. "I still can't bypass the lockout code. It's like Destiny is preventing me from doing so. I don't know what else to do," a very frustrated Rush says. The camera then pans to a wide shot of both the Destiny and the Hermes, surrounded by 100 or so smaller drones. Fade to black. Fade in to Scott and Greer and the team moving through the dense forest. "How are we meant to find anything in this forest?" says Greer to Scott. "Just look for anything, a track, a broken branch, even bones." "Bones?" says TJ. "Yeah, you know, it's been like 10 years. Eli's not exactly a Boy Scout. The chances of him surviving in this forest is pretty slim," Scott says with a sense of dread. "Over here," shouts a Marine. Scott runs over to the Marine. "Human footprints heading off in that direction," says the Marine to Scott. "This is a good sign. Let's follow them," Greer says with a smile on his face. The team then runs off through the underbrush, following the footprints. The camera, low to the ground, pans over to a cave in the side of the cliff as Scott's team approaches. The footprints head right inside this cave. "I'm going in," Greer says. "Wait," TJ says urgently. "It's been 10 years, and if Eli's in there, he has been alone all this time. He might not be the same person he was, mentally speaking. We should proceed with caution." The team proceeds slowly into the cave, moving cautiously and quietly, when up ahead they see a light from a fire. Creeping up and in the cover of shadows and rocks, Scott looks over the rocks towards the fire and sees a long-haired, thin, muscular human covered in rags, crouched over the fire, eating a cooked piece of animal meat. "Eli?" Scott says, stumbling forward, knocking over some rocks and making a noise. The ragged human grunts, stands up and grabs a makeshift spear and looks over towards the rocks and stands with the spear pointed forward in a threatening manner. Scott looks at Greer and stands up slowly, moving out of cover and towards the human. The human grunts and takes a step back, thrusting the spear in an aggressive manner towards Scott. Scott's face still shrouded in the shadows, he moves forward and shines his torch at the human's face, revealing Eli. Scott steps forward again and says, "Eli, is that you?" Eli, looking at Scott, drops his guard and sighs, "You're not real, leave me alone." And just as Eli goes back to eat the meat, Greer and TJ appear from behind the rocks and shout, "It's us, Eli!" Eli then stops and turns around. He stares at the team sternly, mumbles to himself while grabbing and shaking his head. "It can't be. It's been so long. You're just in my head." Scott moves closer to Eli. "We are real, buddy. We survived and are here to bring you home." Eli then drops to his knees and starts to cry upon realizing this is real. "You are real and you survived. I've been alone for so long. as Eli says with tears in his eyes. Scott kneels down next to Eli and gives him a hug. You saved us, now let's get you home. Eli stands up and, now joined with the team, the whole team begins to leave the cave. Fade to black. Fade in to the bridge of the Destiny. Sparks and small explosions going off everywhere. Rush shouts, 2 more control ships have just dropped out of FTL. We're not... Beep 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 beep. The console beeps. The Stargate has just activated. Rush shouts over the explosions. The camera then cuts to the gate room as Scott and the team, along with Eli, step through. With explosions going off in the background, Scott says, "What the hell is going on?" Eli runs over to the control console and hits a few buttons. It's the drones. He then runs off in a hurry. Wait, Eli, where are you going? Scott says while chasing after him. The camera then follows Eli running through the corridors with sparks and explosions going off everywhere. Eli then arrives at the bridge. Young and Rush, both surprised, shout, Eli? Eli, ignoring them, heads straight towards Rush and moves him out the way, and then presses a few buttons on the console, and then suddenly the FTL timer turns on and the engines hum to life. You overrided the lockout? Rush says, surprised. Hermes, we're about to jump to FTL, Young says over the radio urgently. The camera then pans to the timer as it hits 0. The camera, now in space looking at the battle, sees the Destiny jumping to FTL as the drones are closing in. The Hermes, still providing cover fire, cuts to the bridge where Colonel Edwards says, the Destiny has jumped to FTL. Track the ship and jump to hyperspace. Get us out of here. The camera cuts to the Hermes cutting through the drones surrounding the ship and opens up a hyperspace window and enters hyperspace. Fade to black. Fading. The camera, now on the bridge of the Destiny, zooms in past the crew to a rugged Eli as Young, Rush and the rest of the crew on the bridge stares in amazement as to what just happened. Eli looks up and smiles at the crew. And with that, we fade to black. End of the second episode. So there we go then, my fellow nerds. That brings us to the end of the second episode. I hope you liked the story and the pacing so far in this episode. It's really great to share my own fanfiction story of what I would have liked to see happen in a return to Stargate Universe set today. The first and second episodes are part of a 3-part opening sequence for Season 3, and I would love to hear all your feedback and any plot holes that I might have done. I'm still improving on my reading for this channel, so I hope you all can understand me well in this video. The third part will be done after a few more other videos come out, so I appreciate your patience. It's only me doing all the parts to make these videos, and it takes me a lot of time to produce it for YouTube amongst my other activities. So I appreciate you all for supporting this channel the last few months, and if you're new here and enjoying my content, please feel free to help support the channel by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and most importantly, subscribing. Your support helps grow this channel, and I appreciate all of you for helping support this channel. I have been your host, Dr. McKay. Thank you all for watching my second episode of Stargate Universe Season 3 fanfiction story, and with that said, I'll catch you all in the next video. Cheers and goodbye. Bye bye all, and have a good day.